There's something that's very worrying about the way we handle violence and violent acts in this country. And that is that sometimes it becomes uncomfortably too easy to move on. So we've seen Dogo Nahawa, which is something that we focused on here, where for the first time in the history of Nigeria, women and children were specifically targeted. And people there, the victims, were just put in mass graves and maybe forgotten. We had Bunuyadi, which happened in 2014, and we had over 50 boys killed. And we've moved on and forgotten. And recently in Adamawa State, another incident of women and children being targeted in a non-war situation, or at least so we think. So how much does this take away from our soul and our humanity?
It does a great deal of damage to us personally and corporately as a society.
We've not built any monuments.
No, we haven't.
We've not
we haven't
made any memorials to these people who've lost their lives.
No, we haven't. And I think that this has been one of the greatest oversights, or one of the greatest errors of omission by both the state and civil society. And it goes back to your earlier question, when people talk about the disparity in the way the global media reports attacks in France versus the way they would report an attack in Nigeria. I think part of the problem also is that at this point, quite frankly, nobody can value your lives better than your own compatriots or better than your own government.
Mm-hmm. So you think that the world probably picks up on that?
The world
That's
picks up on
that. That's why Nigerians suffer violence in Libya,
absolutely,
South Africa.
Absolutely. I think the idea is this, that you look at a country and you see how much value it places on the lives of its citizens, and you basically take a cue from there. So when people think of Nigeria, if you think of the place as a place of normative misery and suffering and violence, then a bombing makes no difference. You would say if 50 people are killed in a single attack, a news editor somewhere would think, well, hundreds die anyway, so why would this particular 50 be newsworthy in any way? And it comes back to this whole idea that we have failed to memorialize these tragedies. They are no longer tragedies to us.
We failed to even name our dead.
We failed to name
because
our dead.
When you look at what's covered in the media, it's numbers.
Numbers, yes.
25 dead, 50 dead, 100 dead. And even beyond that, you have our emergency agencies and the police kind of rationalizing these figures, reducing these figures.
Yes.
We had a very embarrassing situation back in 2015 when we had the church collapse at the synagogue. And the official figure coming from NEMA at the time was that there were about 60 people killed until South Africa came out and 65 of their own citizens alone were killed. And this is not counting Nigerians.
Yes.
Why do we do this? Why do we feel it's so important to bring down the number? And does that do more damage than it's supposed to fix?
It does more damage. It desensitizes. First, I think we're already desensitized to loss of life.
And it's become a culture. On one of my radio programs, I had an emergency worker who called to justify that, to say, yes, we do bring down these figures, and we have to, because if we don't, then people will retaliate.
Well,
this is the argument.
Yes, and I find that quite absurd, I think. But obviously, we are desensitized. I think that fundamentally, the sanctity of human life is not a core value of the Nigerian state. That is what I think. And I think that attitude, that paradigm has also seeped into the larger society, into civil society. I think that part of it may be explained by the origins of the Nigerian state, first of all as a colonial invention, and then secondly as a state that was now inherited by a series of military dictatorships. So where human rights were not really respected, in fact they were violated very brazenly. So over the years what we've seen is a continuous devaluation of human life. Remember that this country has fought a terrible civil war that cost somewhere between 2 to 3 million lives. There's no memorial to that. Remember that in the series of and cycles of coups and counter coups that we've had, we lost the cream and the crop of military officers in this country. Remember that there was a time in this country when public executions were a form of public entertainment in the 70s. And so when you put all this together and you look at the cycles of urban unrest, the things that we describe as ethno-religious violence, these carnivals of bloodletting that happen frequently and which we now rationalize as intergroup conflict that nothing really can be done about, the cumulative effect is that life has lost its meaning here. And that attitude is both found in the state as well as in the precincts of civil society.